Now, everyone's wrong about making pasta carbonara, of course, except the Romans, because you end up with a scrambled, curdled mess half the time, especially if it's been sitting around for more than a couple of minutes. So our challenge here at Mill Street was to figure out how to make a smooth, silky sauce that does not overpower the pasta. And if it sits on your plate for more than a minute and a half, it's not going to turn nasty like a bunch of scrambled eggs. With our method, which is a low water method, you end up with much more starch in the water, which makes a great sauce that's going to be stable. So we have pecorino and parmesan, and we're going to equal amounts. We're just going to mix those up. Pecorino tends to be pretty salty as a sheep smoked cheese, and parmesan's a little less so. That's one reason. Also, they have quite different flavors, so I like the combination. We're going to take 2 ounces of either guanciale or pancetta, and we're going to want to cook that and render the fat. You wouldn't want to use prosciutto for this because it doesn't really have much fat. Fat is really here for flavor because you have a lot of fat in the egg yolk as well. Pour off the excess fat. You know, in Rome, they might use all the fat, I don't know. But we're just going to use a tablespoon of it. Before we start cooking the pasta, we're going to get started making the sauce, or the basis for the sauce. We have our pecorino parmesan mixture along with the reserved fat, tiny bit. And obviously carbonara has pepper, so we're going to let that sit. By the way, if you don't end up with a tablespoon of fat for the pancetta because it's a meatier cut, just use a tablespoon of olive oil is fine. And we also set the pancetta aside because we're going to add it towards the end. This is where the recipe takes an odd turn. This is based on work I did in Rome a year ago, figuring out how to make cacio e pepe. The entire point of this exercise was to figure out how to create a sauce that binds together nicely. And the answer was create an extremely starchy cooking liquid, which is then used to help bind the sauce. You want to use a bronze die extruded pasta. The bronze die, unlike a Teflon die, has a very rough exterior, and as a result, it leaches more starch. And we're going to put that in the pan, just like that. I know you think I'm crazy, but instead of using 4 quarts of water, 2 quarts of water, we're using just 4.5 cups. That means that the starch percentage in the water is huge. So this is the secret to great cheese sauces, whether you're talking about cacio e pepe or carbonara, is not much water and pasta that's going to leach a lot of starch into that water as it cooks. We found a small amount of cheese mixture introduced at the beginning helps to form a basis for the sauce. So we're going to cook this just shy of al dente. Al dente simply means to the tooth, and it does not mean that it's undercooked. So you do want to end up with the pasta just cooked, just shy of al dente, and about a cup of liquid in the skillet. Yeah, in this recipe, like with cacio e pepe, we're going to add the cheese in 3 batches, half, quarter, quarter. You don't want the cheese to clump up if you added all of it at once. It would be too much cheese. You want the cheese to melt into the starchy cooking liquid. Don't be shy about tossing the pasta. What you don't want to do is keep the heat on as you finish the sauce because it's going to overcook it and get nasty. A tablespoon or so into that. Again, this is off heat. Italians, real Italians, go nuts about over saucing. Pasta with sauce is about the pasta. The sauce is there to lightly coat the pasta. You shouldn't have massive pools of sauce on your pasta. Add back pancetta, guanciale. So it's nice and smooth, it's creamy, it's not over sauced. It has a guanciale or pancetta, which gives it obviously meatiness and depth. You could eat this for breakfast.